In Rwanda's journey towards Vision 2050, the private sector takes a center stage in reshaping the nation's growth narrative. On this episode of Doing Business in Rwanda, we delve into the intricate synergy between the public and private sectors across all priority sectors, that is infrastructure, manufacturing, agriculture, green economy, and energy, in one of the Africa's most dynamic economies to drive economic growth. I'm your host, Flora Limuki. The second edition of the Rwanda Private Sector-Led Transformation Program, RPTP, is designed to drive Rwanda's economic growth via close collaboration between the public and private sector. This program, being spearheaded by the Rwanda Development Board, RDB, and private sector stakeholders, focuses on areas such as agriculture and agro-processing, manufacturing, infrastructure, and energy, with an aim of increasing the gross domestic product of the country to $1,908 billion per capita by 2027 and generate $6.9 billion of investment by 2027 and close to 300,000 jobs by the same year.
We have always held the view as a country that the long-term development of our country is possible through collaboration between private and public sector. And so we did analysis to show the extent of private investments that are required for us to achieve that vision, the economic growth per year that is required, on average 10% every year that is required for us to achieve 2050 vision. And we calculated that that will require a very bold and ambitious scale of private sector investments for us to contribute towards that. So today we were sharing with the leaders of private sector the analysis that demonstrates where bigger opportunities are, whether it's in manufacturing, in agriculture and agro-processing, whether it's in energy and infrastructure, in mining, but most importantly, new and emerging sectors that are technology-driven for them to think about. We were challenging them to think big, to think about bold projects that are scalable, that will create the kind of impact required for us to achieve the Vision 2050 targets. This means that as we continue on the trajectory of positive growth that our economy is undergoing, we want to make sure that we can, every 3 years, achieve tripling of our GDP, and that's the ambition. It's a very high-level ambition. It's a very important target for us to achieve, because the 2050 vision will require this concerted effort. We believe that while government has a role to create a business-conducive environment and private sector to invest, that scale happens at the intersection of the two. And so this is the dialogue that we are having to identify opportunities for scaling their projects and to scaling up the operations. We have an economy that has been growing over the last 20 years on average 7 to 8%. That is a significant value proposition for businesses that are looking for growth. You've got the most competitive place to do business in the continent, very supported by government policies, government administrative procedures, streamlining them. You've got markets that are growing, both domestic and in the region. You've got a young and vibrant labor force that is competitive, but also well-trained and increasingly also technologically savvy. All these things are providing an opportunity for private sector to pick to come to Rwanda. Of course, there is also using Rwanda as a platform to serve the world, especially in the services and technology sector.
The potential that lies with Rwanda's booming economy is an attraction to many investors to tap into the vast opportunities within this emerging market. The second edition of the public-private sector engagement comes as a result of the outcomes of the first program, with more focus now being on technology-driven investments.
The whole point of it was designed to accelerate and unlock private sector projects. So we were looking at projects that were already in the country, so projects that were already registered in RDB, and trying to figure out how best can we unlock their implementation. So there was a lot of projects that were stalled for various reasons, right? So us coming in together with the support of the team from RDB, supported by an amazing team from the aftercare department, all of them, we wanted to figure out how can we make sure that these projects get implemented. Right, so we did a whole session of about 2 or 3 months where we worked together with the private sector, worked together with RDB, figure out what are exactly the problems that they are having, and make sure that we can find the solutions to them. So this involves talking to the different ministries, agencies, and also talking to the private sector as well. At a certain point, we also spoke to some funders as well to figure out if they can provide funding for these projects. So the impact that comes from these projects is that we wanted to create more jobs, right? So having more private sector projects being realized creates more jobs. In terms of the number of projects, we were looking at over 50 projects that we were looking at. So these are very prioritized projects in the manufacturing, agriculture, and infrastructure sector, energy sector as well. In terms of number of jobs, we were looking at about 50 to 60,000 jobs that should be created. Now keep in mind that these projects require a long gestation period. It's usually at the start where you have a lot of problems, which is what we are trying to solve. So that's the aim of this whole program. That oftentimes the private sector wants to move fast, right? And I mean, understandably so. And the government, I wouldn't say that they want to move fast, but there's a lot more deliberation that needs to happen, and that's also by design, because the government also needs to be mindful of the overall impact that it needs to make. Now the challenge is, how do we kind of merge those things together? How do we make sure that we follow the pace of the private sector, and how does the government try to keep pace with the changes that are happening? And I don't think this is alien to just Rwanda. I think it's something that happens across the world. Right? Government has to be deliberate. It cannot just move fast and break things. Right? The private sector can have the ability to do so. So this is, I think, one of the things that we are doing in this program as well, bridging that gap between how the private sector can talk to the public sector, making it more meaningful, making it more deliberate. So such as the sessions that we have here today, bringing together the private sector so that they can speak to the government, making sure that these conversations are happening, not just whenever they come to the office of RDB, or whenever that conversation is supposed to happen.
In this phase, the spotlight is on groundbreaking projects and innovation ideas never seen before in Rwanda, with RDB earmarking $1.8 billion for the one-year program. All eyes are now on the horizon for the unprecedented developments in the country.
Now we're looking at ideas that has never been done before, first in Rwanda, first in Africa, first in the world, and we call them new opportunities. And the main criteria of looking at these ideas are what we look for: best ideas. It has to be bold, it has to be extraordinary, it has to be strategic, and most importantly, transformative, right? Scalable across the globe, and just propel Rwanda to become a major economy in the world. Yeah, that's the hope. Generally in Africa, financing is always an issue, but the financing is there. It's always about matchmaking the financial and the ideas that these financiers would love to couple them with. So in terms of the cap, I think we're not limiting ourselves to say that we're only going to look at the top 10 or top 20 or top 100. We're casting the net wide at this stage. We're calling for ideas for proactively, and also looking at the global benchmark, what's happening outside there, why are we not doing it in Rwanda. In terms of the investment quantum, it can be as little as medium, small SME, and also big multinational corporation. So we're looking at building that ecosystem for MSME, but also scalable effect across the continent. So at this stage, we're not limiting ourselves to, boxing ourselves to just, what's available. We would like to see that stand in the future, stand in the year 2050, when Rwanda becomes a high-income nation and true to the vision 2050. What do we do today to get there? And if you think about Rwanda, it's a 3 million population country. When you look into consumption, investors are not really interested in doing something for domestic consumption. So it has to be scalable. So the kind of sectors we're looking at is something that will fit the future-ready industry, scale. So you're talking about digital, about fintech, about smart city, future city, that can make people forget, Rwanda is a landlocked small country, but rather Rwanda is the gateway and hub for investment in Africa, if not the world. So we're really excited because we've never done it in this way before. We've always made it easy for business to come in and register in Rwanda, to do business in Rwanda, but not really come to Rwanda for Africa. Like, it unlocks a different kind of business excitement for private sector investors, I believe.
And true to that, investors who have been in Rwanda for some time emphasize on the need to tap into the tech sector, among other areas, in this booming market.
I've been here for more than 10 years. I was here as a researcher first, but that turned into me staying and opening my own business. So I have a HR company here. And from there, I went in also taking up the role at the European Business Chamber. So I've been here in different capacities and seen the country develop over the last 10, 11 years, and also seeing the private sector growing in its capacity, the economic contribution the private sector is giving. And today we are seeing many more European companies setting up their businesses in Rwanda, and we are proud of that. I think there's a lot of opportunities in IT, finance. We also see the agricultural sectors growing. We hope to see the more creative sectors also becoming bigger. So there's a lot of potential in many sectors. Tourism is also big. We hope to attract more tourists from Europe as well. And we have in the chamber, all these sectors are also represented both by European and Rwandan companies.
We are equipping middle managers to lead their teams as if they would be their own. And we believe in that you need to be very practical in what you're giving. You need to have in-person trainings, and we think that the mindset change is the most important part for it. So we are believing in longer programs, not very, very short, small courses. We would see on one side, of course, for investments into our institutions, because we also need still some seed funds to, let's say, the way to be sustainable, but also, of course, in terms of getting to know institutions who need our services.
Well, that marks at the end of this episode of Doing Business in Rwanda, looking at the synergy between the private and public sectors to not only investment, but also innovative investment opportunities in line with Rwanda's Vision 2050. I've been your host, Flora Limuki. Until next time, goodbye for now.